Hey, this is Anthony Vincent hanging out with Nothing More. How you guys doing
How's it
today?
going?
What are you guys working on right now?
Yeah, we just finished a record. We spent the last year, a little over a year at home, because we were on the road for about 3 to 4 years before that on the last record. So we'd done a lot of touring. It was about time to put together a record. We had songs from, over the years, tons of songs, about 60 ideas. And that's coming out in September. And we're going to start a tour September 15th.
Now, you're known for your creative live shows and bringing it to the highest level of energy and creativity as far as, just you made this new instrument, the Bassinator, right? Is there anything new that you're bringing to the table for this tour that's going to kick it up a notch even higher?
Yeah, absolutely. We have this thing that Daniel engineered and built himself that we call the Scorpion Tail. That's kind of our pet name for it. But basically, he tried to make the drums that I have up front that I play on and jump on and kind of climb all over. He tried to make them as dangerous as possible and
Good.
basically attached a catapult to them. And at some point in the set, I get to pull a lever and kind of take a little roller coaster ride into the air and tip the thing over and lock it in. And I basically have this thing that it's kind of man versus machine-esque kind of a situation.
Do you have a big enough space to try all this stuff out? I mean, to rehearse all this?
Actually, not really.
Have you rehearsed this yet?
We did it on a full tour before
great.
this.
Okay.
There were a couple of the venues actually had too low of ceilings, and we sent Johnny into the rafters.
Oh,
Like the crowd couldn't see, they just saw his chin and his hands like fighting this thing. So we're prepared to do it anywhere though,
The question is, what advice would you give to newcomers? Because the industry has changed a lot over the past decade, what would you give newcomers in this day and age?
You need all the mistakes, and
Okay.
you need to know how to fail right, because that's the only way you get better. Technology has gotten so much better with recording and everything. Delegate. Early on, we've found our strengths, and Johnny's gone to the head of engineering the record, and we all work on songwriting. Dan's welding stuff in the garage. You have your whole machine just grinding, and you learn to be as efficient as possible. Another thing I know I've heard Johnny and Dan say before is just having a really good mentor, somebody to tell you when you suck, and you trust their opinion, and you learn from that and you grow.
Yeah, that's the most important one. And we found a guy who's our manager now, Will Hoffman, very, very early on, which was kind of our missing piece to the puzzle for a lot of reasons, because you get a lot of people around you that usually don't either give you honest advice, but it's really not good advice. It's not educated advice, or they just fluff your feathers and tell you what you want to hear. And so when you have somebody that you really trust in the music industry, who has experience and is shooting you straight, it's like having a mirror constantly, and you need that mirror every step of the way. I would also say, kind of one thing that Mark said, which was playing to your strengths rather than beating each other down for your weaknesses. And I think that's with anything relational, which a band is a relation. It's like you're married to, 4 different people or however many people are in your band, because it is like a really long commitment, and you're stuck together in small, uncomfortable spaces, usually with very little money and very little sleep and things like that. So the things that wear on a band are usually, well, I've done this, you haven't done that, typical relational breakdowns. So I think playing to strengths and delegating, and having the right people that are as committed as you.
Now, you know how it always used to be. Everyone would tell you that if you're in a band, the live show it's very important. You got to go out, you got to play live, you have to hit the road, you got to get fans that way. Now, what do you think? What advice would you give people, like including this new day and age of social media and all the tools that's available with that? I mean, is it a time now where you don't necessarily have to pound the pavement as much as you used to, or is it you still have to pound the pavement and you have to do both, like a good balance of both? I mean,
it really kind of seems like you do have to do everything. You know, I mean, nowadays especially, it's beyond if you suck live, you know, and you don't play enough live to get good at it. It's beyond the day of just word of mouth. You know, there's videos of you sounding terrible and whatnot.
We have many of them.
Yeah.
So do I.
But you know, we were a band that went out there and toured as hard as we could regionally. And was that a mistake at the time? I don't know. You also need money. That's the other thing. I think one big thing we did was we committed to the band first, and then kept all of our like personal progression as far as, you know, our lives stayed small. None of us owned houses or had car payments or anything like that. And that allowed us to go out on the road and practice all the time at these live shows. And that also allowed us to earn money for the business to buy things we needed, you know, to continue on
There's
our...
no better practice than playing live.
Yeah, it's so different than just, you know,
And
sitting
plus
in
you
your
have to
living
have
room.
a love for the road if you're doing this, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. It, you know, even us, like if we've been home for several months and then we get back out in a bus, you know, it's like, oh, I feel like I'm in a band again. You know, this is sick. Like, there's a different like synergy that happens that kind of reignites a lot of things.
And I would say, in regards to the tools and technology and where we're at in this day and age, instead of giving a piece of advice of what to do with a lot of that stuff, because I think most kids nowadays know pretty much everything that's out there. Technology is a little more embedded in growing up. So I would say what not to do, which is get watered down and very shallow in how much you invest your mind and your energy and your soul, because it's very easy to get spread thin these days into a million different directions, and none of it's really that meaningful, and it's all vapid. It's like, oh, it's my Instagram story today, but it's going to be, nobody cares a second later, you know?
That's sound advice. It really is. No, that's good right there. What do you want? And this is a very broad question, and I'm sure you've thought about this because every musician has. But what do you want your legacy in music to be? What do you want to be remembered for?
I think at the end of the day, it's really just being remembered as one of the most emotionally real bands, emotionally translating through the speakers. Because for me, I find that there's only a few artists that are idols to me, that they just come through the speakers so viscerally. And I hope that we leave a legacy of a very visceral, emotional, you almost know what I went through and what they went through when you hear the words and you feel it.
That's
yeah,
good.
I totally have to agree. And you remember that moment when you heard a song when you were 7 years old or 14 years old, and you had one of those experiences to where it gave you chills and made the hair stand up on the back of your neck. And to me, that's like, if I can be a part of that to somebody else, how special that is. So it's about the journey, and it's not about the destination. We all know that. And so every day is special. Every day is precious.